to go.
You have these walls around you. No windows, no door.
I'm so sorry.
Don't pretend like you don't feel anything.
There's no one else who can help us. I don't know if I can.
Who would you leave me to?
I'm not afraid of you! Just give me back my daughter!
The Vang Brothers, Jeff in Las Vegas.
Hi. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Famous Monsters of Film, man. I have about 7 of those shirts I got from Comic-Con about 3 years ago.
Oh, fantastic.
I got Bela
like
Lugosi. I got Creature from the Black Lagoon. My favorite is Godzilla versus King Kong. I have that one.
That's a great one.
Yeah. I had the Frankenstein one, and I got a bunch of them. So, and that was my.
I think Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I have I have a bunch of issues when I was a kid, back in the 70s, showing my age. But that was my Bible, and I just never had a chance to go to the Ackerman Mansion. I always wanted to go there, and because he wore the ring from Bela Lugosi wore in Dracula. He always wore it. I just wanted to touch it. Anyway. Well, thank you both for joining me today to talk about They Live in the Gray. Excellent thriller, guys. I enjoyed it. Just to set everything up, is that Michelle, how do you say your last name? Krusik? Is that how you say her name?
Or Kruzek. I think it's Kruzek. Yeah.
She plays a CPS social worker. She's investigating an abuse case of a little girl, but she believes she's being abused by a supernatural entity, and adding to her suffering, she has the ability to see ghosts. She's a frightener, I think that's so cool. Just, it's such a, not only is it just a tragedy, that's the nature of her job, with abused children and all that, but also to add the supernatural, it's like, it's just, what an interesting concept. So how did you first come up with that storyline?
Wow. Well, the story, the characters itself, we knew early on that we wanted to use a CPS, officer, for this. But the story itself comes from a very personal place. We have a third brother who passed away about, a week after his birth. And so
he was only a year younger than me. So if he was still here, he would be turning 37.
Yeah. And for our family to go through that grieving process, we actually didn't talk about it. Being from sort of an Asian family, it's sort of emotional, we tend to just sort of bury it. And so
Claire's character is kind of mirrors our what our mom has gone through over the years, and us witnessing and just being around a family that has kind of suppressed this the grief over a family member that had passed away. And actually it wasn't until just a few years ago that our whole family finally, for the first time ever, stepped foot on the gravesite of where our brother Tom was buried. It was the first time my parents had ever gone there, especially our mom, and and witnessing and seeing her finally being able to grieve all these years after after 3 decades, finally grieving and finally closing the chapter on that book, and being able to leave that burden behind.
So for us, the story is sort of inspired on, I guess, our family's grief and how we process that over the years.
And what Michelle is wears in the a lot of the clothes that she wears in the movie are taken straight out of our mom's closet. My mom hoards everything, and so we went back to all the outfits that she had back in the 80s and 90s, and we just pulled them out hey, this will be great, Michelle. This will be great, Michelle. This will be great, Michelle.
Well, Claire is suffering from the loss of her 10-year-old son in the movie too, and the movie has so much grief and despair. You could cut it with a knife. The suffering is all consuming in this movie. I mean, I'm trying to think of a spot in the movie where there's some levity, but no, it's just, this is a heavy film, guys.
Yeah, we knew going to this, we wanted, it to be heavy. We went in, actually saying, you know what, we know we're making a horror film, but let's look at it as if we're making a drama.
Yeah.
And let the horror, stem from the grief in her character.
That took a back seat, I thought, to her story, actually. The supernatural is kind of, oh, here's the ghost again. But getting back to what this poor woman was going through, and your coverage, you love to use those full single shots. I love how you just don't move. And it's almost like a fisheye lens. Is that, that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah. So we shot the movie primarily on, between 11 millimeters and 16 millimeters. We couldn't get our hands on like a 9 millimeter. I think that's one of the lenses that Kubrick used for The Shining. But we tried as best as we could, just to create that kind of space, the emptiness, that hollowness in Claire's life. And so we knew going into this, what our visual palette would look like. And so we went, very wide lens on, almost every
Then you
shot.
jar the audience by doing an extreme close-up. You just jump right to it, and then not only that, just the performances you get out of these actresses. I mean, the tears from Claire and Audrey, not just once or twice. I mean, throughout the whole film, you have this confetti, guys, and it was just, I mean, it felt like an elephant on my chest,
Yeah, I mean, we knew writing these characters that we were going to put these two women, these two characters, through hell, and we're so glad to have both Michelle and Ellen, who plays Audrey. They're fantastic. They came in and they brought their A game, and I think we've had even before every take, extensive talk about where the character is at, where the character is going.
Well, there's ever so often we have a horror film that needs attention like this for this performances, for award wise. It's just like sci-fi and horror never considered, and this is a great example of just an incredible performance by Michelle. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I was crawling out of my room at the end of this movie on the floor. I was just like, there was this, and I love the houses. They're characters themselves. They were so old and these perfect settings. Those weren't sets, were they?
No, they were not. They were lived-in homes. Yeah.
No, we made sure that we would find homes that were disheveled, that were lived in, that were falling apart,
that would resemble the characters in their stages of where they were with their marriage and their lives.
So
like with Michelle, her house was like literally falling apart. Like
we try to put up pictures on the wall, and when we try to nail them, like it would just
go right through the wall.
Right through the wall.
If you like anything that was hanging from the wall would like slip off and fall off within like 5 minutes. Sometimes I remember shooting, we're like, okay, we'll have 5 minutes for this shot because that painting is gonna come off the wall.
Yeah, you guys are spilling blood on the floor too. I'm like, that's going through the cracks in this old house, isn't it? I'm like, I'm like, I'm like, you're gonna get a dripping going somewhere. And and those electric power lines, those scenes where you're in that looked like where they shot Seven. Am I imagining that? It looked like the same kind of.
We don't know, but we
don't know. But we thought exactly of that too. This is this what's in the box moment.
I'm like that. You can't fake that backdrop. That looks like Seven. They have to be there.
Yeah. I don't know where they shot Seven, but we shot that out in Palmdale, was it?
Yeah.
Palmdale.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We were just sort of driving, actually, looking for a spot. We're looking for some sort of barren land. And we saw there, like, hey, you know what? That looks cinematic, the power lines, because we have the power lines sort of as, this sort of theme that runs throughout the film where she's driving. There's always these power lines that go on forever and ever, right? And so we're like, that's where we're gonna have the big moment for her and her, her big epiphany or whatever it is.
Oh, yeah. And I was looking for the horror cliches that we see in all these films, and I was pleasantly surprised there wasn't any. The one time you made me bite my lip is that when the guy was like, I want something to eat, and she runs back in the house and the doors are all slamming behind her, and then I told you I want something. I'm like, I didn't expect that, and I bit myself. So I'm like, tell the Vang Brothers they got me. That was a good one, because you're expecting. You can tell when they look over and you're waiting for something. But that one I wasn't expecting. So that was creepy. You just saw his face. You had it only lit by the staircase. I'm like, oh my God, So great thriller, guys. Congratulations. Thanks for joining me today. And come visit us in Las Vegas. We'll have a drink and we'll talk more about famous monsters of filmland.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Take care and good luck with the film.
All right. Thank you.